Every kid has a strong connection with his grandparents. Unfortunately, both of my grandfathers died before I was born. But I did get to meet one of my grandmothers. She was my mother's mom. I'm almost 32 now, and I can't remember a lot about her, but I heard some great things. Let me tell you about a story about me and my grandma. This one I remember as if it happened yesterday. I was 10 years old. I was not old enough to take care of myself if my parents left for work or something, so I needed a babysitter. That's when my grandma came into play. It was a winter day in January. I was still sleeping when I heard a lot of commotion around the house. I opened my eyes and I looked out the window. It was snowing and I was so happy. I mean, which kid doesn't love snow? I hopped out of bed, put on my slippers, and rushed downstairs. I was excited. In my head, I was about to go to the backyard with my dad and build a snowman, but eventually I'd find out I'll be wrong. "Good morning, honey," my mom said while looking for something in her purse. "What's going on?" I asked her while I was rubbing my eyes, still not being fully awake. "Me and Dad have to go out of town for the day, baby. It's a work thing," Mom told me while still looking for something. "What are you looking for?" I asked her. "My phone. I'm going to call Grandma so she can come and stay with you tonight. You guys are going to have so much fun," she told me before taking the phone out of her bag. She then called her number before kissing me on the forehead and going into another room. Dad came in. He was dressed nicely and looked sharp. "I was really hoping to make a snowman today, but hey, we'll do it tomorrow. How about that?" Dad told me while smiling. I agreed and went in to hug him. He hugged me back. Anyway, Mom made me a bowl of cereal and told me that Grandma is on her way. "Are you going to be okay today, honey? We really have to go, but Grandma will be here in about 10 minutes, Mom asked me. "Of course, I'm going to be okay," I thought to myself. I was 10, not 5. They both kissed me and went out the door, and before they closed it, a couple of snowflakes came into the hallway from outside. They instantly melt, but I got a strong feeling of going outside and playing in the snow. Mom and Dad drove away, and even before I finished my cereal, Granny came in through the door. I was so happy to see her. I went over to her and gave her a big hug. We got along so well. After breakfast, we both went out into the backyard and made a couple of snowmen. One had a carrot for a nose and the other had a green cucumber. I found it quite odd, but we were all out of carrots. Grandma told me that this particular snowman with a green nose is special, just like me. I had freckles on my face and she always said that I was special. I got hungry from all that playing in the snow and she said that she would make me some pasta. I loved it. She would make it tastier than Mom. I don't know what she put in it, but I'll never forget that pasta. After dinner, we played a game of Monopoly. It was the only board game we had in the house. I know Monopoly for 2 sounds pretty boring, but Grandma made it fun. She was magical through my 10-year-old eyes. As I was getting ready for bed and brushing my teeth, I took a look out the bathroom mirror. It started to snow really hard. It was a snowstorm, and as I glanced at the snowman we did earlier, all I could see were 2 piles of snow. Even the carrot and cucumbers were covered in it. "Hello? Hello?" I heard coming from downstairs. I brushed my teeth to see what was going on. My grandma was at the phone trying to call Mom and Dad. "The phone lines are down due to the storm," Grandma said. "That's that. We'll see what we can do in the morning. Now off to bed. Come on," Grandma told me as she walked me upstairs to my room. After giving me a goodnight kiss, she tucked me in. But I couldn't fall asleep. I was thirsty. So after about half an hour, I went downstairs to get myself a glass of water. Grandma was on the couch. "What's wrong, honey?" she asked me. "I'm thirsty, Grandma, but why aren't you asleep yet?" I inquired. She told me that she was right in the middle of a good book and couldn't put it down. She then started telling me about it. It was about a young lady born in a wealthy family, and that's all she told me, because the sound of the back door being open interrupted her. "Shh, go upstairs, now. Hide in your room and be quiet," my grandma told me. I tried to respond, but she put her hand over my mouth, covering it. "Do what I say," she said, so I rushed upstairs. Grandma slowly went towards the back door. "Hello?" she said. "Give me your money. Where's the money?" a voice said. It was a young guy, couldn't have been over 20 years old. I was at the top of the stairs, looking at everything, staying in the dark. "You can have it. Just let me get my purse," Grandma said. "Give me your watch," he said after seeing it on my grandma's wrist. It was the watch she had from her husband, and she couldn't give it to him. She refused, but the thief got angry and he approached her. He tried to grab her wrist, but she resisted. He hit her over the face with his hand in an attempt to scare her into giving him what he wants. But she stood her ground. She didn't even flinch. I believe the thief was a little scared of her as well. "Give me the watch," he yelled while finally getting his hands on it. But my grandma poked him in the eye with her fingers. The thief backed off, so she grabbed the phone. "I'm on with the police right now," she told him. The thief got scared and tried to run past her before the police came. Little did he know that the phone lines were down. But before reaching the back door, he hit my grandma in her stomach. She yelled in pain. He got out of the house, but she fell to her knees. He hit her really hard, taking into consideration that she was old. But eventually she got up, locked the doors, and started to come up the stairs. While seeing that, I went to bed and I pretended I was asleep. Shortly after, she joined me, falling asleep next to me. The next morning, I heard the front door. I woke up and got out of bed. Grandma was still sleeping. I tiptoed out of the room so I wouldn't wake her. I told Mom and Dad everything and they went upstairs to check on her. The next thing I knew, I went to stay with my aunt for the day. I didn't know why, but eventually they told me Grandma died due to the blow she received from the thief. She suffered internal bleeding and died in her sleep. I'll never forget the night my grandma saved my life.
The snow continued to increase, making it harder to drive. I kept pushing the car. It was at least 30 minutes before I got to my destination, the college campus. It was getting harder to drive, but I had no choice. To make it to my early morning class tomorrow, I had to sleep at the campus. As I drove further, I noticed two figures standing at the side of the road. When I got closer, I saw a man and a woman sitting in a car. By the look of things, they might have had issues with their car, which was also parked at the side of the road. There were some tools lying near their car. It was a good thing to be nice, but in this situation, stopping in the snow to offer some people whom I didn't know a ride seemed a bit off. However, they looked really miserable, so I decided to help them. I asked if I could help them, and the girl moved to the passenger side of the car to see my face. "Yes, please. We've been stranded here for several minutes now. You are a godsend. Thank you so much," the girl replied. As I was driving, the guy thanked me too. He said his car just broke down for no reason, but he had called a tow truck to get it to the garage. His name was Tyler, and the girl was Riley. I asked where they were headed, hoping it was going to be in the same direction. "Towards Avenue Street, number 5, Riley said. It was a slight detour from the campus, but I told them I would drop them off first. "Yes, thank you," Tyler said. While I was driving, Riley kept on staring at me from the rearview mirror. She gave me a suggestive smile. I found it a bit odd and tried to focus my attention towards the road. After about 15 minutes, we arrived at their house. Just as they were about to step out of the car, the snowstorm got really bad. It was bad to the extent that it was going to be difficult to drive. "You could relax a bit, and it's not safe to drive in such weather." Tyler looked concerned. I expressed my gratitude as I took my phone, keys, and jacket out of the car with me. The house felt cozy and warm once I stepped in. It was way better than the weather outside, and I was very glad for that. I sat on the sofa, making myself comfortable. Tyler excused himself and went upstairs, muttering that he had a long night of office calls ahead. Riley, too, left to freshen up. "I hope you would like some coffee and some cookies," she asked before leaving. I nodded. As I was sitting alone, I brought out my phone to text my roommate. He was someone who would get worried easily, and I didn't want him to be unnecessarily worried about me. "Hey!" A soft voice called out to me. My jaw dropped as I looked up from my phone to see Riley standing in front of me wearing nothing but a small towel. I looked around to make sure I was still in the right place. How did this happen so fast? I smiled and looked away from her. I tried to ignore her. It is her house, and she can wear whatever she wants, I thought. My conscience was clear for a while after saying that to myself, up until when she started coming closer. "What are you doing?" I asked politely. It was starting to piss me off, but I was in her house, and that required that I give her some respect. It was hard not to shove her away, though. Funny that she didn't seem to remember that her boyfriend was in the same house with us. Come on, we could all have fun. The more the merrier, right? You, me, and Tyler. He loves when people join us. I'm sure you want it too," said Riley, as she slowly removed her towel. She stood there in front of me, all naked, with her arms still holding the sides of the towel. I asked if her boyfriend knew what she was doing, hoping that it would be enough to scare her away. She didn't back off an inch. It was getting extremely difficult for me to ignore her. "Come on, you wouldn't love a little bit of fun with a stranger?" Riley said the stranger in a high-pitched voice like that would get me interested. I was losing it, but I needed to be calm. The word respect kept playing in my head. I politely told her to wear something. "Riley!" The voice must have been enough to get her scared as she covered herself back. "Tyler!" She broke down in fake tears and said I tried to force myself on her. She was lost in fake hysteria, telling Tyler that I overpowered her and tricked her. How in the world could someone be such a good liar and actor? Before I realized what was happening, I felt loads of blood leaving my cheek at once. Seconds after, I realized I had just been punched very hard. I held my hands out, trying to stop Tyler's attack. I started to tell him that she was the one who came to me, but I had not completed my statement before I felt small fingers hitting my cheek very hard. She slapped me. I was in shock. First, she went against me, and then she had the guts to slap me. I remained staring at her in shock. I got very angry, but decided to watch the drama that was going to unfold as I noticed Tyler walking towards Riley angrily. "You have the guts to cheat on me and still lie about it? Oh, he forced you to prance around in the towel like that? Do you know how long I've been watching you, and I heard the conversation if you didn't think I didn't?" Tyler said, his fists clenched. He really knew it was his girl's fault and still beat me up? I wondered if I was in the Twilight Zone. Tyler looked at me apologetically and told me sorry. He said he needed to release the anger he felt and he couldn't hit his girl. He had to hit me instead. I couldn't believe my ears. I grabbed my things and rushed back to my car, shaking my head. That was enough drama for one day. I should have never stopped to pick them up. I should have pretended not to see them. Thankfully, the snowstorm reduced and it was better to drive. I drove back to my campus angrily. I'm never going to be nice again.
The snow was as beautiful as ever. It looked white as usual. Safe to say, it was pure in its own sense. The winter period would always be my favorite. The family comes around and everyone gets to enjoy one another. My family was the type that cherished family time a lot, and growing up in that kind of environment, I was naturally the kind of person who lived to create moments that we would cherish forever, and things that would remind us of the future. This time, my family had games day and night planned. There were many games to play with, and my family decided that every game that was ever created in physical form would not go untouched, and so we had to sort out all of the games to different days. The first day started normally. My brother came back from work complaining that he was so tired, but I couldn't relate as I was only almost a university graduate. I didn't even know what to do to work to earn a living, but as the saying goes, tomorrow would sort itself. And that was the rule that was pushing me forward, even if it felt really hard. The first game we started with was Monopoly. The rule was very simple. Just try to get as rich as you could be. Dad was business-minded, and we all thought he was going to win, but things took an interesting turn. And the fact that I was writing this with my whole family in the hospital just says the summary of all that happened. Things started quite well, with everyone in a good mood, and even my mom, who was rarely ever smiling, had a wide smile plastered on her face that day. At first, my dad had the winning hand, which made us all annoyed at the fact that knowing how to handle money was just his thing, but after an hour, things took a drastic turn and Caleb, my brother, became the richest. It didn't seem like a problem to any of us, but if only the inner part of human beings could be read, we would have known that we were walking into the lion's den with the lion around, but with the face of a cute bunny. Almost suddenly, Dad threw his chair in the air, and when I looked up, he was furious and his eyes were red like he really needed someone he could tear apart anytime soon. "Dad," Caleb said, and I called the same name, "Dad." "Oh, you people think you can just take all of this from me and just make me poor like I have no sense or what?" my dad said. "Mom, I thought these episodes were over. That's what the doctor said, isn't it?" my brother said. "What were they talking about? My dad used to have episodes that made him flare up?" I looked at Mom and she just had her head pressed down, and when she looked up, tears were at the brim of her eyes. And that was more than enough confirmation for me that what my brother said was right. My dad used to be an angry person? He used to have episodes? There were so many questions. How come I didn't know about it for almost 25 years? How long ago did they do treatment? And why was he back to how he used to be? My dad rushed to the kitchen, and when he came back, he had a very sharp knife with him, one of the new ones that Mom recently bought. He pointed it at my mother and smiled at her, a smile that was creepy and which I could not define. Then he looked away from my mom and looked over at my brother. That made me scared, coupled with the fact that I could not tell what he was thinking or why he was moving towards my brother with determination in his eyes. A horrible and creepy determination, and the knife that was with him was pointed towards my brother, just a few inches away from him. My brother didn't try to move or run from the fact that a crazy father was pointing at a knife at him and that he could do anything crazy. Before I could finish processing my thoughts, my brother fell to the ground and blood spilled from his stomach. His skin suddenly went pale. I looked at my dad to see if I was going to find at least one hint of remorse in his eyes, but it was not there. Instead, he walked towards my mom with the same horrible and creepy determination, and before I knew it, my mom's body dropped to the floor too. They were both breathing, but who knew for how long? I looked up at my father again, and this time, he looked confused, and just when he looked at me, I saw tears in his eyes, but I was not moved by that. What happened here? Did I lose it again? Princess, please tell me I didn't do this, please, he said, dropping the knife that was with him, and looked around again to confirm that he really was seeing his family members on the floor. The question is, what did happen here? I can see that you are really crazy and you have no idea, and you have no iota of respect for your family members to the point that you stabbed them all in the name of anger issues. Even if your head was not in the right place, didn't your eyes see their faces before you stabbed them? I replied him. His eyes moved back to how they were before, red and anger written all over it. He walked towards me this time, and I was hoping that he was not going to do whatever he had on his mind. My head moved and ran from him, but my legs could not run. I was glued to a spot. A part of me had this hope that he was my father and that he couldn't do it, but a part of me told me to run as fast as I could away from him. I trusted him instead, and I just stood there, hoping that the look on his face would change soon. Instead, when he got to me, he pointed the knife at my belly, and he looked me dead in the eyes. I closed my eyes and said my last prayers, but when I opened them, I saw his own body on the floor instead, with his blood around him. He stabbed himself. Without thinking, I yelled, enough to make the neighbors run in, and when they did, I couldn't tell what happened after that, because when the first person ran in, I took the same knife my dad used and stabbed myself. Everything went black, and I said my last prayers. Come on, we don't want to be late. I groaned before getting up from my bed. Mom had made me pack my things last night because we were going to meet my dad for a mini vacation. I haven't seen my dad in about 2 months, and I look forward to seeing him. I just didn't think I'd be getting up this early. Rose, don't be lazy. It's just 8. Breakfast is in the kitchen. I strolled down, rubbing sleep from my eyes. I was 18 and the last child of 3 children. My sisters were happily married and only come home during the holidays. In a matter of time, I'll be out of here. Once college resumed, that would be my ticket to freeing adulthood. I ate my pancakes and shook my head in amusement at my mom as she moved our things to the car. I was the miniature version of my mom. We had the same dirty blonde hair and pale skin. My mom ordered me to get ready, and I had to hurry so as to not risk her wrath. It was snowing lightly and it looked perfect for a drive, as long as the snow didn't fall any heavier. We hit the road. We wore our coats because the cold was getting intense a little. I picked up my book and lost myself in the world of fantasy that Sarah Maid knew how to create. Mom was in good spirits, and I understood why. She was going to spend time with her husband after a long time. Their marriage was the definition of the perfect marriage. I've not seen any couple stay in love with each other the way my parents were. Even though they were old, they were still in love. They made me believe that love was real because they were perfect examples of what a couple should be. Mom smiled at me, and I shook my head in amusement. She was tapping along to the upbeat tune playing on the radio. We should be with my dad in 2 hours. The upbeat tune got interrupted by an announcement from the radio. They claimed that there would be heavy snowfall in about 4 hours and everyone should stay indoors. We glanced at each other and then shrugged it off. We should be there and safe before then. So we continued, and we just rode in silence. "Oh no, what's going on?" my mom asked. Cars in front of us were slowing down. There was a blockage on the road and there seemed to be people around the blockage. Suddenly, there was a violent scuffle just ahead. The men around the blockage forcefully opened the doors and pulled out who was inside. My mom reversed and drove into the forest by the side of the road at a breakneck speed. My heart was in my throat and I was shaking a little. I couldn't believe that our car almost got taken from us. The snow started to fall rapidly and it seemed like the warning we dismissed earlier was coming to pass around us. My mom continued to drive through the snow, thankfully that we were safe. The progress we made was little, but at least we were warm. At this point, we could hardly see anything and I was starting to get apprehensive. All the stories I've heard about snowstorms began to flash through my mind. I mean, we just encountered gunmen not long ago. Then, all of a sudden, the car gutted to a stop. My mom was muttering no as she tried to start the car. I sighed loudly. This was the worst thing to have happened to us. "Your dad will know what to do." Mom reached over for her phone and cursed when she saw that there was no phone service. This meant we were completely stranded. It looked a bit dangerous for us to remain there, and I suggested that we should find someone and seek help. Mom said that we have to sleep in the car till morning before we could get help because of those people we ran away from at first. I was too tired to argue. My mom screamed as my door got opened. I sat there, stunned, unable to make a sound as a pair of hands reached in to grab me. My instincts kicked in and I lunged to the side so that the hands missed me. We hadn't heard him approach. Mom unbuckled her seatbelt and quickly got out. I was still fumbling with mine. The hands reached for me again, so fast I barely moved before one of the hands covered my mouth, while the other found the upper part of my arm and yanked. My yell was muffled beneath his palm. Tears slid from my eyes, and in those few seconds, I wondered if I was going to die. I was pulled out of the car into the cold. My attacker was a large man, and I struggled against him as he crushed me into himself. He suddenly lurched forward. Mom was hitting him from behind with a log of wood. She hit him at the back of the head with a loud scream, and he groaned as he dropped me. My mom yelled at me to run, and I obeyed, glancing back to make sure she was following me. She raised the wood again, and he caught it in his hand before it connected with his face. My mom dropped it like it made hot coal and hurried after me. Hearing his heavy, labored breathing behind us spurred us on. We were small and moved through the trees faster than he could, considering the fact that he was just injured. We half-hopped, half-jogged to the main road. There were still cars passing by, so we knew that we were safe. After limping and walking for about 15 minutes, we saw a motel next to a gas station. Mom had to drop her Rolex watch since all of our money was still in the car. The owner accepted it as a form of payment with a glint in his eyes. Dad had given her that watch on their last wedding anniversary. We slept like the dead that night. When morning came, we called Dad and explained everything that went down. He rushed to pick us up. The police helped us with the car stuck in the woods, and we were advised to get loads of rest after that traumatic night. I was still a bit shell-shocked, and it felt like I was kind of disconnected from myself. It felt like yesterday's events happened to a different person. Suffice to say, our vacation got canceled and Dad came home with us instead. It wasn't the vacation that we were hoping for, but at least we were all safe together.
For the entirety of my life, I always had one friend, James. We became best friends ever since his family moved right next door. Until then, I would always stay inside, playing video games, and I would only go out to shoot hoops with my dad on the driveway. But ever since James moved into the neighborhood, we'd spend most of our time together. Our families even became close. All of us would celebrate Christmas and Thanksgiving together. He was like family to us. But as time went on and we got older, things started to change. Don't get me wrong, we would still be best friends, but we started meeting other people, especially in high school. But let me cut to the chase and tell you what exactly happened between me and James and why we're not friends anymore. One day, I was in school. The captain of the basketball team came up to me. James was there right by my side, next to my locker. "Hey, Mike, right?" he said while reaching out his hand. Yeah? Hey, Travis," I responded before shaking his hand. "You know, I saw you shoot hoops in the gym in free period.
You're really good at it, and I think we have a spot on our team for you. What do you say? Meet you after class at tryouts? Travis asked me. I was shocked. Of course, I wanted to be on the basketball team, but I never thought that I was good enough. I told him I'll be there, and after he walked away, I saw the expression on James's face. He looked disgusted, and I knew why. I knew about how he felt when it comes to jocks, but I didn't care. I loved to play basketball. After class, there I was, in the gym, by the door, with James next to me. I guess he had a need to protect me from the Neanderthals. That's what we would call people who played sports. All the other guys on the team were practicing, and I guess the huge smile I had on my face made James even madder. Are you sure about this? I mean, look at them. They're hitting each other and then they laugh. Who does that? They must be missing some brain cells, James told me while nudging me with his elbow. I didn't say anything. Instead, I started walking towards Travis, the captain. It was like I was starstruck. Hey man, you made it! Oh, and you brought your friend, Travis said while looking at James, who was sulking in the corner. Yeah, of course I came. And don't mind him, he doesn't like sports, but he's a great guy if you get to know him, I told Travis. The next thing I knew, I was on the court passing the ball around. The coach seemed impressed, and seeing the look on his face gave me more confidence, and I performed even better. I was flying on the court, and when I hit a three-point shot from almost at the center of the court, everyone cheered me on. It was like I was in a movie when the geeky kid discovers a new side of him or something. After practice, Travis came to me. So Mike, the coach wants a word with you, he told me before tapping me on the shoulder and walking away. I had a feeling the news will be good, judging from his smile. I felt a tap on my shoulder. I turned around and there he was, the coach, with a jersey in his hand. Congrats, kid. You're now part of the team. I never thought a brainiac could play as good as you, he told me before we shook hands. I was so excited. I was on the team. It was like a dream come true. Then I turned my gaze to the corner of the gym. I saw James with his arms crossed, frowning and looking at his feet. I went over and asked him what's wrong, showing him my jersey. I expected a congratulations or something, but he just wanted to get out of there. For the rest of the day, James was very upset, but I thought he'll just get over it. I didn't want to press him on with all sorts of questions like, what's wrong and why are you upset? But as I saw, he became angrier and angrier. I asked him if he wanted to hang out at my place and play some video games, but he just said that he needed some time for himself. I didn't know what that meant, but I just said okay. The next day, we were supposed to go to school, and to my surprise, James was much better. He called me early in the morning and asked me if I wanted to get a ride from him. He borrowed his mom's car, and I said yes. On the ride there, he seemed fine. But as soon as we got into the parking lot and he saw Travis, his expression changed. He became mad all over again. What are you doing? We're here, I asked him after seeing that he doesn't want to get out of the car. You go, I'll just hang back a while, he said. But that was just the beginning. He started acting weirder and weirder as the days went on. And each time he would see me talking to Travis, it was like he wanted to kill him. But one day, he completely snapped, and everyone saw him in the hallway. We were at my locker, and Travis came over. Hey Mike, I'm having a birthday party tomorrow at my house. Can you make it? He asked me. Of course I could, I told him. I'll be there. And then I looked at James. Travis felt bad and said that James could come, and that's when he started acting crazy. Do you think I'm a charity case? Who do you think you are, you dumb jock? James told Travis. But Travis retaliated. He didn't like being called a dumb jock, and he pushed James, making him fall on the floor. Everyone started laughing at him, and he got so mad that his face turned red. But he couldn't do anything. There was no way he could beat up Travis. So he took his bag and went through the door. I tried to call him, but his phone was off for the rest of the day. I assumed he just went home. I didn't speak to him all throughout the day, which was odd because we would talk all the time. Later that night, I got a text from him. He said to come to the park outside of town. The place was once a great playground for kids, but now it was just deserted. All the rides were either stripped of parts or broken down, and the entire park had a creepy vibe. I asked him what was he doing, but there wasn't any answer to my question. He just told me to come and see him, and in about 10 minutes I arrived. There wasn't anyone, so I called him. I heard his phone ringing. I turned around, and under a tree, far from the street lamp and under the shade, there he was. "Hey man, what's going on?" I asked him while I got closer. "Come and see something," he said. I continued to walk until I saw his face. He looked sick. His eyes were red and he had bags under them. I was confused and actually pretty scared. I saw that he had a knife in his hand. "Whoa, what's that? What are you trying to do?" I asked him. Then he grabbed something from behind a bush, and to my realization, it was Travis. He was tied up, his face was bloody, and from what I saw, he had difficulty breathing. "James, what the hell, man?" I tried to run towards Travis and free him, but James stuck his knife right into my face. "So, I see you're wearing that basketball jacket that you're so proud of. Take it off, now!" James commanded me, and since he had a knife, I did what he said. "You know, Mike, I never thought you would sell yourself for an inflated balloon. I thought you were better than that, but I guess I was wrong. You're just like this pathetic bag of flesh here, all brawn and no brains," James told me. Then, before I could even answer his comments, he grabbed Travis by the hair and exposed his neck, putting the blade right on it. "Stop! Are you insane?" I asked him. "This is what happens when you cross me, Mike. Let this be a lesson to you," James said, as he started pressing the knife into his neck. I had no other option. I jumped at him, and we all tumbled over. The knife fell to the side, and I tried to keep James pinned to the ground. He started screaming, but I was stronger. "Relax, it's over, relax," I told him. Finally, it seemed that he snapped out of that enraging state that he was in. "Okay, I'm fine, let me go," he said. And so I did. He ran home, and I freed Travis. He was so mad and wanted to go beat him up, but James was already gone. I tried to call him after everything settled, but he didn't respond, and I didn't see him at school either. After classes, I went to his house. "Hello, Mrs. Connolly. I couldn't get a hold of James. Is he in?" I asked his mom. James is in Florida with some relatives. He'll be staying there for a while. I'll tell him you dropped by," she told me before shutting the door in my face. That was the last time I heard anything about James, and soon after, his family moved away. Now it's like they were never here. The house is owned by other people, but the memories still remain.